Hey, folks, it says we're live, so here we are. If you can hear me, put a comment in. Let me know sound is good, or, I say, can you see me? That's pretty bright. It snowed, so look at that. Snow blind. So we'll shut those. Tomorrow I have scheduled a live, and the live tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central, is, what are the benefits? I should probably turn this down some. Got music in the background to keep me motivated, but it might be distracting you. So tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central AM, we will be talking about why every company can benefit from having their own LMS. And it's interesting because, we moved to Kansas recently. I say it almost every live. We moved to Kansas recently. It's a smaller town. A lot of the businesses here in town, they have barely functioning brochure level websites, let alone a dynamic website, with membership access and learning content and things like that. And so when you start having conversations with people that aren't in that same playing field, it's very easy to either downplay the role or get tied up in well, that's the way we've always done it mindset. And fortunately for me, I'm someone that bucks the system. I'm somebody that, no, that's not acceptable. And, we launched a thing near the end of last year, near the end of 2024. We really started focusing on SCORM content. We said, look, we have experience in SCORM content. We have experience in SCORM authorship tools. As an agency, Mañana No Mas has experience with Captivate, Rise, Articulate 360. We've got people on our team that have created some of the most amazing e-learning in those course authoring tools. So we can help with curriculum development and those kinds of things. And while that's not normally the leading thing that we go into from an agency perspective, we have people on our team that have not only the capability, but the extended skill set to really take it and run with it. Talk about graphics and animation and audio and all these things. I mean, it's cool stuff. But the bread and butter of Mañana No Mas as an agency is helping course creators and corporations get their learning content online. So whether it's SCORM based or it is, do I want to say piecemeal? Piecemeal might be the way to say it. Is it text, audio, video? What are these assets? So we help you examine your assets. What do you have available? What do you have available for training? What do you have to onboard new employees? What do you have to give your customers kind of an educated look at how to use your product or what to expect from your service? And so one of the first questions I ask when I'm doing a needs assessment with a prospective new client, I'll say, oh, do you have a learning management system as part of your project? Invariably, most times it's like, well, no, we don't need that, and it just gets dismissed. Oh, we don't need that. And I let that sit for a bit. I go on with the rest of the needs assessment, right? So it's going to be marketing. It's going to be more brochure stuff, right? What are your colors? What's your logo? Do you have a style guide? Do you have pre-written content? Do you need help with copywriting? Do you have copywriting? Who's my point of contact for X, Y, and Z? And then we start to put together a package that meets what they perceive their needs to be. And then I'll bring it up again and I'll say, hey, I asked before, I just want to touch base again. Are you sure that you want to move forward with this project without considering the benefits of a learning management system? And then I'll say, because if you just got a few moments, I can just kind of outline some of the benefits that I think that this would provide you as a company to help you save some money. Now, so those are very key phrases, right? So if someone is an active entrepreneur, CEO, business owner, general manager, they're going to hear a couple of things. They're going to hear, that we can optimize things, right? So we can optimize things and we can save money. So I'm going to be able to provide you something extra and you're going to be able to save money. Like, so when people say, so why an LMS? Why a learning management system? I don't get it. I go back to COVID, all these companies immediately, one of the things that made me a real conspiracy theorist during COVID was as soon as COVID was released, all these companies already had these commercials in the can about, hey, social distance, our offices are closed. We're going to move everything online. Do you remember we're going to move everything online? We're going to move everything online. We're going to allow people to work remote and move everything online. They just kept saying it over and over, and commercials were made, full blown commercials about, the effects of COVID. Now we're going to move everything online. And then they laid a ton of people off. The supply chain was broken. And then they had to scramble to try and rehire people or to bring in new staff. And when these corporations tried to bring in new staff, what they were doing was they were advertising for remote positions. And then they would hire people and they would say, well, the first step to working in this remote position is to hop on an airplane, fly to our central offices, and spend a week with the stakeholders. Spend a week with HR filling in paperwork. Spend some time going over our sexual harassment policies. Meet the vice president and president of XYZ. Meet the regional manager of blah, blah, blah. And so your first step to hiring somebody for a remote position was to not make them remote, was to bring them on site. That doesn't make any sense. And so as we think about how things have unfolded in the last 4 or 5 years, we need to be very realistic about the expectations employees have and the expectations that consumers have. And I'm a really big advocate for reducing the friction. So before we talk about customers, let's talk about the employee thing. So you hire a new employee. Now imagine you hire an employee for a remote position. And then they say, well, what's the process to start the job? And instead of saying, well, get me your information, I'll book you an airfare ticket and hotel and a rental car and a this and a that and a per diem account. Instead of that being the conversation, it turns into, hey, we've already assigned you an email. Did you accept the email invitation? Did you set your password? Great. Now that email is active, all of our communication is going to be on that company-wide email, right? Boom. We're only using company-wide email. And then we say, go to your email and you're going to see an invitation to our learning portal. Now that learning portal is going to be in the back end of your marketing website. The public doesn't have to know it's there, right? And so you're going to have a portal, you're going to have an invitation to our learning portal. They accept the invitation to the learning portal and they set their password or use single sign-on or whatever you want to do, right? But you give them access to the learning portal. So they go into the learning portal. What's in there? Fill out this form. Download, scan, and upload. Download, fill in this W-9, scan it, and upload it, right? People know how to do these things. Take a picture with your phone and upload it this way. If you have a all-in-one printer, scan it and send it. If you want to do it as a fillable PDF, talk about convenient. Do a fillable PDF with digital signature. Boom. There goes the W-9. There goes, so now we've got a W-2 employee and they're on the books. And then we say, hey, here is our policy and procedures broken down into micro-learning segments. Okay. So you're going to take this course on policies and procedures. And maybe that course is 7, 8, 10 lessons long. And each lesson is like 15 minutes or maybe a half hour. Okay. So now they've got 5 hours of e-learning they've done. They've already filled out the paperwork for HR, right? They're in this thing for a total of like 7 hours. And now they can start training on what their actual function is. So then you assign them courses in the learning portal based on what their function is, right? So if you're going to be in customer service, this is how the call queue works. This is how the email ticket system works. This is how, and they take a course on that. Then they demonstrate through the portal that they understand what the position is. They understand what the expectations are. They get a minimal score of proficiency in that course. And now they can go to work. So within 2-3 days, you've got somebody that hasn't had to travel and they're ready to go to work. Whereas the old way Let me book you airfare. Let's get you to, you can start working in 2 to 3 weeks because we got to plan all this, travel. We got to make sure people are here and their schedules are clear to meet with you in person. We got to this, we got to that. We got to, make sure someone's able to train you on site. We don't need any of this. We don't know what we don't need any of this. The other side of the coin, let's get out of the employee thing. Let's talk about consumers. Somebody buys somebody buys a phone, they have it delivered, and they're old and they've always used an Android. Now they've got an iPhone. How do you use this? Well, they could look stuff up on YouTube. They could, but how would it help your company's branding if you were like, hey, we're the cell phone company for technically challenged people. Order a phone through us, and based on the model phone that you select, we're going to give you access to our online learning platform that's going to show you exactly step by step how this phone works, how to turn it on, how to activate it when you receive it, different apps that you might want to have, how to upload your contacts, how to make a phone call, how to record a phone call, how to all those things. How does your voicemail work? How do you set up your voicemail? How do you send a text message? And you build all that in. Now, from a marketing perspective, this is where learning management systems get shortchanged a lot, because a lot of people say an LMS is a liability, not an asset. A lot of companies think of it as an expense and not an investment. But from a marketing perspective, how much more would the public like to do business with your company if they knew that you were going to back up the product with support and service? And I use the cell phone as an example because I have one on my desk. But I think about it like with ATVs, electric motorcycles. Think about this. Electric vehicles are the rage. And I'm not a fan of electric vehicles, but they're the rage. So somebody buys an electric scooter. They take it home, they plug it in, they use it, the battery dies, they plug it in, they use it, battery dies, they plug it in. And then they notice, hey, I used to be able to ride this thing for 45 minutes. Now I can ride it for half an hour. Now it's down to 20 minutes. What's going on? If the company had substantial user training information available on their website, the customer would already know, oh, hey, I haven't been using the charging cycles correctly, or I haven't been exhausting the battery fully before recharging it, or I've been storing it in a hot shed in my backyard and it should be in a cooler environment. Or the other side, right? I've been leaving it outside and it's 5 degrees outside, so the battery isn't going to have the same resilience as if it were spring or summer, right? As if it were 70 or 75 degrees outside. And so there's a ton of technical reasons why something with a lithium ion battery and a motor would not perform optimally. And so instead of customers calling into your customer service line and complaining about the product, you're able to say, hey, I understand you're frustrated. We do have some online material that describes this in full detail. Is it okay if I text you a link to our learning portal? Is it okay if I text you a link to our support documentation that shows you exactly how to use this product, right? And people are like, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't know about that. And it should be part of the sales and marketing process to share that learning content for consumers prior to sale. So I have this huge background in, the difference between sales and after sales. And I'm more of an after sales specialist. So when I talk about after sales, I'm talking about parts, service, education, technician training. That's my whole background is like right up that alley. And so you can imagine, as I run a web agency, as a business consultancy that usually produces websites, I got to phrase that in a way that makes sense to people. Our number one service at Mañana No Mas as an agency is the consulting. It's the needs assessment. It's the consulting. What is your business? How do you do business? What's your widget? How do you drive profit? What are your processes that lead to efficiency and productivity? And then at the end of all that, when I have all the information, then we're able to say, hey, let's farm some of this out to the team and let's see what a new, electronic representation of this business looks like, which usually comes in the form of a website, whether that be a static site or a dynamic site. The needs assessment helps determine that. And again, like I said, if it goes my way, it's probably going to be a dynamic website. It's going to be membership for consumers on the front end. It's going to be training for employees on the back end. And it's going to be supported by an overarching forward website with all of the marketing material on it. And so I'm really big on all this. And the idea that we would have an LMS to do these things, it just makes sense. And a lot of business people, they don't recognize it at first, right? Because they're focused on sales. They're focused on, how many widgets can my company buy and then resell them for a profit? So whether they have a showroom or an e-commerce website or some kind of portal, something that generates, revenue, that's where their focus is. But if we can tweak that focus a little bit and recognize that sometimes, this is my favorite part, sometimes sales is an extension of the core business rather than sales being the core and everything else is an extension of sales. Sometimes the real service we provide is the after sales component. How well do we take care of people? How well do we nurture the relationship? How well do we recycle our customers back to sales, through the lifespan of a consumer? And if we can change our perspective a little bit, we can start to see that, an LMS makes total sense. Now, one of the things that I put in the description of this video before I went live, and folks, I see you're in here. So it gives you up. It tells me you're here. The number keeps going up. So if you have any comments, if you want to let me know where you're at, let me know what the blizzard looks like where you live. I mean, I think we're at about 12 inches. I got up this morning. It was snowing again this morning. So, let me know where you're from and let me know anything. Like if you think I'm crazy, if you have an LMS, if you don't have an LMS, if you're considering an LMS, learning management system is what LMS is for. Just go ahead and put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. I'd love to see you here. But in the description to this video, back to that, I had put in there that I just started a new project. Now, typically, Mañana No Mas works with Lifter LMS. I've been with Lifter LMS for a decade. So I think it is a really strong platform for e-learning. Is it the only platform that Mañana No Mas would use? No, it's not. We have clients that are on LearnDash. We have obviously clients that are on Lifter LMS. And now we have a client that is on LearnUpon. This will be a really good experiment for Mañana No Mas. And it's a pretty specific use case. So this particular client, and I almost want to call them a partner because we're doing other things together besides just this website. So I almost want to call them a business partner. But this client has a lot of SCORM material that is going to be distributed in different ways to the end user. And the amount of SCORM material and the amount of dynamic quality to the SCORM material led them to want to use LearnUpon. And I have a lot of static course material for kind of a whole vertical of training that I do with these people. And so I'm their appointed trainer, right? So I'm the trainer, and I used to send them to I used to send them and their clients to one of my websites for training, right? So I have a fully built LMS already, and I used to send their clients to my website for training. And of course, over time, they're like, hey, we would really like to send our clients to our website for training. And that makes total sense. It's their business, right? So I'm a provider, but it's their business. So that makes sense. So I said, okay, it makes sense. Do you want to Lifter LMS website? I'll slap that together for you. Even if you have SCORM content, I know how to put SCORM into Lifter. And so we can make this all play friendly. It's not a problem. But as they discussed the depths and the distribution model that they wanted to explore with their SCORM material, and they have other stakeholders that want to kind of play in this marketplace with them, there were certain levels of complexity that were coming into the conversation that Mañana No Mas was not in the position to take effect with. Not saying we couldn't do it, but I'm saying our relationship with this partner prevents us from putting in that work without the relationship. I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense. I hope that if you're a business person and you're hearing this talk, what I'm saying is making sense. If I'm making sense, put yes in the comments. if I've lost you, put you're crazy in the comments. So this particular use case, we're going to use LearnUpon. And so just last week, hey, here's your access. Go in, put your courses in. So I go in, and of course, I have no access. I can't put my courses in. So then they adjust my access, and I go in again, and I still can't put my courses in. So then we get on a Teams call, Teams or Google Meet. I think it was Google Meet. We get on Google Meet, and of course, oh my goodness, let's try this role, let's try that role. And I'm not faulting the client. Here's the deal. Every time you get involved with software and clients, the client always wants to give you the least amount of access to their platform and expect the highest amount of results. I mean, that is just the nature of the beast. It's the same with money, right? I want to get the most amount of work done for the least amount of investment. That's the customer perspective. So when you're dealing with software, they want to give you the least amount of access and get the most amount of results, right? The most amount of content loaded up. And so we work through it on the Google Meet call, and we were able to say, hey, okay, that didn't work. That didn't work. That did. Okay. Hey, look at that. Now it works. Now it works. Right. And so to get the level of access that I require as an instructor and a course creator in LearnUpon, they actually had to make me like an administrator. So I'm going to want to play in the system a little bit. I'm going to want to understand a little bit more about the roles and how the roles work. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on LearnUpon for roles and capabilities and see exactly where this went amiss. Because in Lifter LMS, I don't have to make somebody an administrator to be able to build a course. Right? I can make them an instructor. So with Lifter LMS, we have instructors assistants, we have LMS managers, we have students, so there's all of these roles, right? And then there's capabilities for each role. So, instructor does this, instructor's assistant does this, LMS manager does this. And when we were getting involved with LearnUpon, it seemed like, and again, I wasn't the one driving. I wasn't driving the keyboard. Someone else was driving the keyboard on the call. But as they drove the keyboard, they were like, hey, let's try instructor. Nope, that didn't do it. Hey, let's try manager. Nope, that didn't do it. Okay, it looks like we're going to have to give you administrator access. Boop. And my screen works. So now I have administrator access to this LearnUpon site. And obviously, I'm going to do what I promised to do. I'm going to go in, I'm going to put up these 6 courses. I'm going to customize them. I'm going to personalize them. I'm going to add the homework. I'm going to add the different assignments, the testing, the form uploads, the ability to upload pictures and video. All of that's going to be in there for the student. Just like if I had built it in Lifter LMS. The great news is I already have a functioning LMS for this. So all of this content is already in my own website, functional content ready to go. So there's nothing for me to have a proof of concept with or anything like that. I just need to duplicate and move content over to the LearnUpon environment and then kind of play with the settings, right? What does a drip setting look like? Drip, for those that are signing in that don't know, a drip setting is, let's say someone finishes a lesson and I want them to wait 2 days before they can get to the next lesson. That's a drip setting, right? When you pause the delivery of content for one reason or another, that's called drip. So why an LMS? As I think about what we are doing in the power sports space to train dealers to increase their parts and labor sales, to make their dealerships a happier place to work at, to make customers more excited to do business with them, to see their profits rise, and to see the families that work for those dealerships increase their revenue straight across the board. That to me is a huge, huge win. And if I did it in person, if I traveled to each and every motorcycle dealership that I trained, I would be doing one dealer at a time. When I put these dealers into a cohort and I have this interactive course built online and I can do a cohort of 10 dealers at a time, I am adding value to 10 dealers at a time. And my goal as a trainer is to positively affect as many people as possible through my content and through my delivery of that content. And so if I can do it virtually at scale, that's the way to go. If I do it individually, one at a time, there's the other side that I think we have to address. And this kind of comes down to what I was talking about on consumer versus employer when we started talking about LMSs at the beginning of this talk. How much does it cost? Let me put a pause on that. Y'all don't need to hear commercials. If I hire an employee and it's got to be airfare, hotel, rental car, per diem for food, for onboarding for a week at the office, even though they're a remote employee, that is thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. If I have them sign into a portal for 7 or 9 hours of filling in paperwork and taking some mandatory training classes before we put them to work, they are able to work probably a couple of weeks earlier in the calendar, but we've also spent hundreds of dollars instead of thousands of dollars. And then people will say, "Oh, but the LMS costs too much," or the hosting is too expensive, or the software is, or the part of the reason why I changed our kind of our corporate messaging near the end of 24, where I said, "Hey, we're SCORM experts. We'll take that SCORM content and put it in WordPress for you, and it'll work." Part of the reason I was so emphatic about that was because if you're a corporation and you have a purpose-built SCORM website that you're using for training, chances are the only thing that website is doing is the training. So you probably have a marketing site, and you probably have some kind of portal site for HR, and then you have this training site. And that training site probably cost you $250,000. It could have cost more. I don't know. I'm not in your shoes. But I run into a lot of corporations that have some kind of custom built, SCORM learning site. It's some kind of morphed example of Moodle with some new skin on it for your own marketing purposes, for your own branding or whatever. And it costs well over 6 figures. Plus, they're charging you 6 figures a year for hosting and maintenance and God knows what. If I take that same content and I put it into Lifter LMS and I host it and I offer to provide maintenance on the hosting, we even have packages where we do user support. So we have team members at Mañana No Mas that can provide user support, like trouble logging in, trouble submitting your assignment, and we'll take care of the support for you. We have packages that cut your expenses at least in half, at least in half. And so that became a real driving factor for us as an agency. So what can we do with this? And so when dealer owners, when business owners, not just dealers, when business owners are like, "Well, we can't afford e-learning because it's not in our budget," that's a whole different conversation, because then I have to ask, what do you think that budget needs to be? If you have a corporate background and you've worked at, a major automotive distributor or a power sports distributor, or you've imported some kind of widget from China and you've distributed it, nationally, and you had to have training for it, chances are you had a purpose-built SCORM website and you paid somebody $150,000 or $200,000 to develop the site and $100,000 a year for hosting and maintenance. And I'm here to tell you, that's not the budget you need. We can get you going in WordPress on Lifter LMS. There's some third-party plugins to run that SCORM content if that's the content that you have, and we can make that stuff work. And so we can get SCORM to work. We can have the reporting sync up with Lifter LMS, and so your HR department can go right to the reporting in the website and see how the students are doing. It's amazing. So when I say why an LMS, I'm pretty firm that everybody needs an LMS. For one reason or another, you need a learning management system in your business. The other side of the coin, what kind of learning management system? Do you want a SaaS platform that you have no control over, or do you want to build something in WordPress that you have ownership of and can customize? So that takes me to, wow, I disappeared. That's unique. there was a power surge and my camera went blank. Let's see. I'll try settings, and we'll go to camera. And no, that's it. Let's try changing the definition. Well, there we go. Looks like we're back. All right. So change the definition and it worked. So do you want to own it? Do you want to rent the space? Do you want to pay someone for some kind of custom learning website that's not attached to anything else? That is not the way I recommend to go. I usually recommend, hey, if we're going to do this, let's build you a package. Let's build you a package where you could have your marketing website and your learning website and a CRM tool all work together, one platform, one login, one sign in, one reporting base, easy for HR to use, easy for your employees to use, and easy for your customers to gain access to based on the access you allow them, right? So there are access limitations that we can build into different content levels based on what you want to do. And I can tell I probably already went a little too deep for the audience here. If you want to discuss any of this further, go to manananomas.com, book a call at the top. Go ahead and book that call. We'll jump on, we'll have a conversation, and we'll figure out, hey, is Manana Nomas a good fit for you? If we're not a good fit, I'll tell you right up front, hey, I don't think we're the best fit for you, but I know this guy, that guy, the other guy that might be a better fit. And I know an awful lot of people in this space. Newsflash. So tomorrow I am doing the Y and LMS talk live, 10 o'clock a.m. That'll be live. So I'll be talking about a lot of the same things tomorrow, a little more detail, and a tour. I'm going to give people a tour of the back end of a learning management system so they understand what we're actually talking about. Like, why is this important and why is it so effective? So we'll be doing that tomorrow. I'm also going to be on the WP Tonic show tomorrow, and Mark Zemansky is going to be our guest. So I'm the co-host of the show. John Denwood is the host. I'm the co-host, and Mark Zemansky is going to be with us, and we're going to be kind of looking at WordPress from a business standpoint. Like, how does WordPress really work in the birth of AI, in the idea of templates, in the idea of, hey, do-it-yourself marketplaces like Squarespace pretends to be. We're going to have a conversation about, hey, for instance, I just told you a purpose-built SCORM website could run $250,000. I personally know companies that have spent more than double that building their e-learning sites. And so when I have conversations with businesses, I know that I'm talking about $250,000, $500,000, $120,000. Like, I know that we're having conversations in those ranges. However, there's a lot of instances where, as a professional in the WordPress space, I might have a conversation with a company and very justifiably say, oh, this project based on your content is probably going to fall in the $85,000, $90,000 range. Let's have a follow-up meeting. Let's really isolate these needs, and let's really take a look at the content and what's required, and we'll try and drive that budget down to a more finite number, right? And so we'll have that. And some people might say, oh, well, I've talked to 4 other people that do WordPress sites, and they could do it for half of that. That's great. Go ahead and grab them. Go ahead and take the deal, and I'll see you when you come back. There are certain things that the budget allows for. For instance, I quote jobs that I'm an expert in. I don't quote jobs really that I'm not an expert in unless I have a conversation with the customer that says, hey, I'm not an expert in this, but for this budget, I'm willing to learn and explore and build what you need. And that's going to take some extra time. Okay. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to say, I'm an expert in this. It's going to cost you $90,000 and I'll have it done in 3 months. And here's the deal. Since 2008, when Manana No Mas was launched, Manana No Mas has never missed a deadline and has never gone back to a client asking for more money. If the client changes the scope of work, that's a different discussion. But if the client maintains the scope of work and we bid the project, we'll get it done on time and under budget, and that's it. Period. And so when I say it's going to cost $90,000, I'll have it done in 3 months. I know that I'm going to have it done in 3 months or less, and it's going to cost less than $90,000. And that is super valuable. If someone says, I can do it for $45,000, and then 6 months goes by and you still have a skeleton of a website to look at, that's when you realize I should have paid the 90 grand. I should have just paid the 90 grand. And of course, when they come back to me 6, 7, 8 months later and they say, hey, can you jump in and fix this? We already spent 40 with this guy. Can you just jump in and finish it for the extra 45 grand that you needed? No, because I got no idea what this other person set up. I got no idea what this other agency built or put in place or used custom CSS for or any of these things. So I'm going to say, no, we're back at scratch. I'm not taking over some abandoned half project. We're going to have to do this and do it right. We're going to have to do it legitimately. And so we can scrap this and off we go. And customers usually aren't very happy with that answer. But at the end of 3 months, when I meet the timeline, when I meet the budget, and we launch a viable product, they're very happy, very, very happy, because they know the headache they just went through. So I'm drilling too much. So here's the deal. Thanks for coming. I see folks are in here. I didn't see any comments. I'm going to click the button just to make sure I didn't miss any. If you have comments or if you have something you want to say after you watch the replay, put it in. I'll get a notification that you had a comment, and we'll talk very, very soon. Again, if anything I said in this live has you thinking, holy crud, I need to talk to Kurt, go to mañananomas.com, mañananomas.com. It's all over the screen here, right? So go to mañananomas.com and click book a call, set up a meeting. We'll just have a quick conversation. If we're a great fit, awesome. If we're not a great fit, I can at least try and point you in the right direction. And with that, folks, I'm going to say, have a wonderful day. If you have an appetite for more of this discussion and a tour of the back end of an LMS, I will see you on tomorrow's live. That is at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.